I started the show, more broadly. I kind of wanted to cover lots of different topics after 50 that I thought were important as I was experiencing them. But it quickly became apparent that my audience, at least, wanted dating and starting over, because there are so many of us that are starting over again after 50.
This is episode number 614 with Silke Schwarzkopf. We're going to be talking today about navigating love after 50, the do's and don'ts of dating in midlife. Silke is the host of Second Act TV, which is an amazing YouTube channel. She talks a lot about dating in midlife, dating after 50. So we're gonna talk all about what she's learned since doing this show. But before I bring her on, I just wanted to welcome you back to Last First Date Radio, where we believe it is never too late to go on your last first date. And to support you on that journey to lasting love, I've written 2 books, and my 3rd book is at the editors now, which is so exciting. The first book is called Becoming a Woman of Value: How to Thrive in Life and Love. And this book is really for anyone. It's not just for women, just spoiler alert. But it's really written for people who want to show up in a more empowered way in life. And it includes ways to speak up, set boundaries, all kinds of great information. Each chapter has an exercise, as I always give exercises. And the second book is called Choice Points in Dating. Silke always gives a shout out to this book in her show. And this book was written as really a guidebook for dating, especially after 40. And all the choices that we have, from how to think about dating to how to actually date to how to go on your last first date. And you can find both of them on Amazon for paperback or Kindle, and Choice Points is also available as an audiobook on Audible. This week's tip on becoming a woman of value is step number 21. Your past doesn't limit you. I think so many times we think our past determines what our future is, what our present is, especially when it comes to dating and relationships. If we had toxic relationships in the past, we'll probably have them again. Or if we grew up in a home that was unhealthy, then we're just gonna have unhealthy relationships. And I'm here to say that that is not the case if you do the work. That's why I love doing this work so much, because we can change those narratives and change our future and our present to have healthier relationships and better relationships. Before I bring Silke on, just a quick shout out to my Facebook group that's called Your Last First Date. And we are a group for women only, women over 40 who want to have a positive, sane place of support. In fact, today I just kicked somebody out because her comments are not kind. And we are all about kindness and support. And really, I mean, I'm in there all the time. I have 7 amazing monitors. I post information there that you don't see anywhere else. So join us there at Your Last First Date. And now for my guest, Silke Schwarzkopf. She is the creator and host of Second Act TV, a YouTube channel that's focused on dating and relationships and sexual health after 50. Shortly after she turned 50, she took a huge leap of faith and she left her 25-year marriage that was not fulfilling. She returned to her hometown in Southern California to pursue the development of original programming most pertinent to what she was going through, which is starting over after 50, hence the name Second Act TV. She is the executive producer and the host, and she lives her motto: it's never too late to be the person you always wanted to be. And I love being your guest, and I love having you as my guest. So welcome.
Well, thank you, Sandy. I thank you for having me back. And obviously Sandy's on our show all the time. And you've been a fabulous contributor of so much information. I thank you for all your time.
Oh, my pleasure. And really, it's always a great conversation. We laugh, we share really important stuff, and we have fun in the process. So today, I wanted to have you kind of take a look back at your time at Second Act. And you've interviewed people like John Gray and some really fascinating guests. And so from all that you've learned, what are some of the do's and don'ts that you've learned from some of these experts that you've had on?
How long is your show? Yeah.
We have time.
There's, God, that's a big question, obviously. And I guess to encapsulate it is really communication, the importance of communication. I know that sounds trite, because everybody says, oh, you got to communicate, but it really is what it all comes down to. If you don't understand each other, you're going to have continual issues. And I think for me, like the big do's and don'ts at that point was not to judge men, or even, I guess it applies to anybody, by what I believe, or by how I feel, or how they should be. But that men are different than women, that of course, Dr. John Gray probably explains it the best, that iconic book. But it really is true, is that there are differences, innate differences, that if we just understand that, it can make life so much easier. That's I guess that's the big answer, or the big picture answer.
Yeah, and it's such an important one. I mean, this is why I teach communication skills and boundaries, because it's really at the crux of all the relationship issues that I've seen is miscommunicating, misunderstanding, not checking in, not asking questions, coming with our unconscious biases around who people are and how they should be. And well, I wouldn't do that, so why do they do that? And they're a horrible person. And we have so many stories in our heads about what people should do and shouldn't do. And so many of those shoulds are based on society or our past, or how we've been told what the rules are of life. And we need to talk about those rules, because they're not helping us. Have you had guests on about rules and things like that?
Well, yes, a great one called Sandy Weiner. You might know her. But she, great guest. Yes, it does. You said something. I want to go back to something you just said, but about the past. That's and really, in answering your questions today in the interview, I have to relate a lot of it to me, because this was like a therapy session for me for the last 10 years is doing this channel and learning, because unlike you, I'm not an expert. I'm a producer, interviewer. I ask the questions, and it has been fascinating. And one of the things that I've learned about the past is how we carry it into the future, how it influences our present constantly, and how detrimental really that can be. And well, it seems like that's something obvious we should understand. As you well know, it's not. And we don't even realize what the past, how deeply it can affect us, and to what extent.
Detrimental is a good word. Because we bring all of these things. And a lot of times we know better. Like, we have this intellectual understanding of what makes sense, but we keep going back to the wiring, to how we're wired. I know Gary Sellier was on your show, and he's been on a few times, and he's been on my show as well. And he talks about attachment styles and what our human rights are in terms of the kinds of relationships we deserve, that we don't even realize that this is possible for us because of our past experiences. It's one of the reasons why I wrote the third book, is because I want to bring hope to people who don't have hope, and share true stories about people who have found love later in life, because so many people do. And if you don't, that's okay too. So tell us some of the more popular topics. We're starting to talk about some of those, but give us some ideas about things that you've loved and been really engaging for your audience.
I started the show, more broadly. I kind of wanted to cover lots of different topics after 50 that I thought were important as I was experiencing them. But it quickly became apparent that my audience, at least, wanted dating. dating and starting over, because there are so many of us that are starting over again after 50. 1 in 3 or something people over 50 are single. And I also experienced that through my friends. Well, like as you said, is when in your introduction, that I went back to my hometown, I reconnected with my high school friends, and they were also, some of them were still married, they're divorced now, but there's so many of us going through the same issues that I realized, there was a big audience for this sort of thing. And the dating certainly has, proven that up. The other, sex after 50 and intimacy, something that we just really don't talk about. We don't have really anywhere to go to have honest conversations, to get information, to what we might consider silly questions. And so I really wanted to do that. I really wanted to just let say and do whatever, ask what you want to know. And I think that went over really, really well. And at that point too is when I realized that 50% of our audience is male. So that definitely is a popular topic, that it's surprising how little we at this stage in life know about that.
Well, nobody talks, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember even when I first got married, I was really curious about what other people were doing behind closed doors. I was just started asking people, so how often do you have sex? And wow, was I surprised that, first of all, people were really open with me, but they were saying things like, well, I have sex every other day. We schedule it because that keeps my husband happy, even though I don't really want to have sex with him.
Mm-hmm.
And started hearing about people having affairs, and people, unless you ask, you don't know. And most people just don't ask. And it's just like, I thought that everybody had 5-course meals on the table every night, because we don't see each other's tables. I think we have to normalize these conversations
Mm-hmm.
around, that people serve chicken nuggets and take things out of the freezer, and it's okay. People are still eating, for the most part. And people are having sex or not having sex. People are having painful sex. People are dealing with all kinds of issues. I also love to talk about these topics on my podcast because of the same reasons. So that, I imagine you have a lot more men than I have listening to my podcast. Your men are very active on the YouTube channel. Everybody should go check out Second Act TV and get involved in the conversations there, because they're incredible.
On the topic of sex, like I just did 2 interviews, they're like, I think they're coming up on over like 200,000 views right now, with Dr. James Simon, and that is about vaginal health. And just, he did such an incredible explanation about, our vagina, where I guarantee if you watch that, I don't care who you are, you're going to learn something. And then Joan Price, who is 80 years old, she's a sexpert, and she wrote the book, Talking Out Loud About Senior Sex, and just what she covers and how people tune in, and the questions and the comments. There is such a need for that as you cover it as well. It's amazing what we don't know.
Yeah, we don't know a lot. And but it's such great information, because knowledge is power. Knowledge gives us options. A lot of people believe that this is as good as it gets, or it's supposed to be painful, or it's supposed to not work, or we don't really have options. I mean, I have worked with clients who were much younger, in their 40s, who only had a certain type of sex when they were younger and when they were married. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, there's all these things that I never knew about. And I will talk to them about that, because they need to know. They need to also have discussions with partners. And unless we have these honest conversations, we don't have them.
Right.
So some of these were surprising to you, like how popular they were. Was that surprising?
How popular, and how much in common we all have that we don't even know. Like what you just said, about painful sex, or this is the way it's supposed to be. That was me. I was in, my marriage was the last 10 years was literally sexless. And I thought that's going to be okay. The rest of my life, okay, this is the way it's supposed to be. And there are so many people out there that believe that as we age, well, it's just natural that we're going to lose interest in sex, including, by the way, the medical community to a large extent, which is something Dr. Simon, bless his heart, he's an OBGYN, is trying to change. It's not about losing libido, really. It's about losing interest in, I mean, there are, obviously hormonal things, but such a big part of no sex is loss of interest in your partner and issues that you have that nobody really wants to face. So you blame it on, this is just the way it is. I think that was a huge, huge awakening for me.
Let's take a quick break to hear from our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by Amazon Music Unlimited. You can listen to over 70 million songs and thousands of playlists and stations. Plus, you can now stream your favorite podcasts like Last First Date Radio. You can listen to any song, anytime, anywhere, on any of your devices. Get Amazon Music Unlimited for free for 30 days. Just head on over to getamazonmusic.com/last1st date to learn more and claim this offer. Were you surprised at how engaged your audience became? Like, you started out, how many years ago?
Well, when I put real effort into it, about 7 years ago is when I really wanted to build the channel. I had other plans in the beginning. So it launched about 10 years. Yeah, 7 years ago, I would say, is when I really put effort into building the YouTube channel and posting regularly.
Mm-hmm. And I remember the early days, you and I,
yes,
and different backgrounds, trying green screens and different microphones. I probably had like a one of those old Apple plug-in.
I do have that.
Yeah,
I do have that. But you still sounded better than I did because I used the onboard mic or something. I mean, that's funny because I watched those. Yeah, that's how. And really, you were instrumental in helping to build Second Act. So I'm always will be grateful for that.
Well, I always love being on your show. It's, I've been on a lot of shows and I've had my own for a long time, 11 years. And there are not that many great hosts. You have to say that there are people who don't know how to engage in conversation. There are people who just listen to what you have to say and then they just move on to the next topic and they never really reflect. And you're great about reflecting and being prepared and just making sure that the topics get discussed thoroughly, but not for that long. Like, they're not huge, long segments. Sometimes I do my podcast and it's like an hour. I get so engaged in a topic, which is fine for a podcast, but not always for videos. But again, my 5-minute segments on Sundays are very popular because people have a short attention span. So it's okay. I have a short attention span, right? So were you surprised at the level of engagement as you started to put more effort in?
Yes, well, pleasantly surprised, obviously. I was, I mean, and it's to this day, it still surprises me how many men engage. And I think I take that as a huge compliment because we are, I think, making them feel comfortable to actually men and women on the channel are engaging in conversation. That's mostly positive. So I was surprised. I think that when you say about engagement and that kind of thing, it's really all about, and this is another lesson just in life and dating, about listening and then not being able to ask not being afraid to ask follow-up questions that might sound silly, because the likelihood is if you have that question, everybody else does too. But if you just listen to people, it's surprising what you'll learn and where a conversation will go, not just here, but in real life.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I think also you're great at engaging your audience. You ask questions during the interview to the audience. So what do you think about that? And it encourages people. And also you're always answering comments. And I think a lot of people ignore the comments, people who are the
Mhm.
hosts. So you do that really well. And I
Thank
think
you.
people feel heard and they feel that you care, and you do. So
I
it
do.
shows.
I
Yes.
really do. I do. I do. I really do care.
Yeah, no, it really shows. I mean,
Yeah,
you're so
thank you.
kind to people and you're engaging, and I think it's lovely.
Thank you.
So speaking of comments, what are some comments that stood out? Maybe some of the best comments, some of the worst. I mean, today you posted a video that I'm in, and
Hmm.
there were two or three that were like, this podcast, this channel has changed my life. Like
Hmm.
those were beautiful. In fact, I even mentioned in the video, because we were talking about not complimenting your date too much,
Yeah.
but to say something that is sincere. And I said,
Hmm.
Silke, how would you feel? How do you feel when somebody says that? And then they were saying
Right.
that. So
Isn't that
yeah, so
funny?
tell us,
Yeah.
yeah, got
Yeah.
to plant seeds. But yeah.
I have to tell you, Sandy, that amazes me every time, and that it's those kind of compliments or comments that have kept us going, because as you know, it takes a lot of effort, to do this, and when you hear that it actually helps, and they're sincere. Yeah, I mean, I get, obviously I've gotten thousands of comments, but I get like just private email as well, and it's just amazing how stuff we talk about, we as, and also you, and I mean, you're, like I said, you're a big part of it. It really is helping people, and that just it's that's I mean, it sounds silly, but it is my reward more so than what I used to make by putting in this much effort to something. And yeah, that definitely is wonderful.
Yeah, I mean, knowing that you make an impact is
Mhm.
huge. It feels amazing. And it's true, you bring incredible guests. And again, you're like a wonderful hostess. And so being able to get those guests to open up and to share that information and to have it be as comfortable as it is testament
Mhm.
to you. And it's wonderful that you've created this safe space that they feel comfortable sharing that with you, which
Yeah,
I love.
sometimes I'm amazed at what they share.
Yeah, sometimes
No,
a little too much. Yeah,
but
so what are some of the things that were surprising, like some comments, or do you think of anything that stands out?
well, you know how the good is something that we just love. Like I just said, I'm so touched by it. I'm so honored by it. But what you tend to remember, like when you just said that, is the bad, what that means. And I didn't realize how many. In this case would be men, since I'm a woman. I don't. There's probably women out there that do this as well, but how many jaded men there are who just hate women, and there's even groups of, movements of men that absolutely hate women. That was a huge surprise to me, that even existed. Or why, how could someone, okay, so fine, you're jaded, you deserve to be jaded, your wife was a bitch, why would you go to a channel or to a video that's clearly labeled, how to save your relationship or dating, starting over again, blah, 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 watch it, and then engage in such a negative and just insulting manner? And I
Yeah,
think at first that really bothered me. It's like, and then I realized that there's so much hurt out there. So many people are hurt that what we do is it is necessary, and we do acknowledge that there is hurt out there. It's not easy. It's not just answers that you get, but there's serious loneliness and just hurt out there. That was very surprising to me,
yeah.
to what degree that exists.
And I can relate to that because I got all those
Mhm.
red pill comments on my
Yeah, yeah,
videos. And at first I had no idea what red pill was. I was
right.
like, what is this? Some Alice in Wonderland reference? I'm like, I don't know
Yeah,
anything. And
right.
then my son explained to me that these are people
Hmm.
who are very misogynistic and
Right,
really don't like women. I mean, look, there's
right,
the same thing. There are women who hate men, and
right.
And
Absolutely.
I mean, my son was telling me about a friend of his who was watching the new Star Wars. It's a very female focused show that they just put up.
Hmm.
And this guy was like, it's an estrogen fest. Ugh. And my son was like, he didn't want to engage at all because he likes
Hmm.
women.
Hmm.
And this guy doesn't dislike women. He's just kind of a black and white person. And he
Hmm.
loves Star Wars so much that he has tattoos of Star Wars on his arm. And and so this person messed with Star Wars, with this,
Mm.
patriarchal Star Wars. And, so my son let him just send him a whole bunch of texts. He didn't answer any of them. And then
Hmm.
at the end of like five of these, he wrote to my son, I'm done with my rant now. So he kind of got it all out of his system
Yeah.
and started to have a little bit of self-awareness without
Hmm.
my son saying a thing. And I really hope that people can hear this, anybody who's hating on anyone, to
Hmm.
realize that hurt people, that there really is true, and that I love how you turned from being hurt by it to having compassion for it. And I think that's a big learning. I had to learn that through the coaching that I've done and through the help that I've received, because that's a hard thing to do. It's a
Yeah.
really hard thing to do.
It was at first, and then it became easier and easier. I mean, I genuinely mean that. It's like, God, what did this person go through to get here?
Yes.
Especially as we learn more about how difficult it is on the dating scene. It's not easy out there. It you get hurt, you get rejected, you have to deal with so much that you very diligently explain that how rejection doesn't really mean anything at first, blah blah, but there's just so many ways that we can be jaded, get off our path and just check out of the dating scene altogether, finding love. And we
Yeah.
do our best to address that. Yes, that absolutely, we get it, we know, we've been there, so let's work through it.
Yeah, and also calling people out on their own behavior. Like even
Yes.
in the last video we did together, just
Hmm.
be aware of the things you say and do, not to shame
Right.
people, but to raise awareness.
Hmm.
Because when you have awareness, you start behaving differently. You start
Hmm.
realizing that you have more control over your situation than you thought you did.
Right.
And you don't walk around with all this hate and disgust, because
Right.
that sucks the energy out of you
Hmm.
as well as other people.
Oh, totally. Totally. You're
Yeah.
just hurting yourself. And then okay, so kind of jumping all over the place, but learning or being surprised by but self-responsibility, taking responsibility for your own actions. That is something that more and more and more and more and more has come up and has just hit me. I mean, I think I always did. I didn't necessarily have to learn that, but I didn't realize how many people actually point the finger outward. And if you just think about it, what that means, you're never going to move forward. You have got to work on yourself and take responsibility, if any relationship is going to work.
Yeah, it's true. And we can make small changes within ourselves that changes the dance that we have with
Mm-hmm.
somebody else. A
Yeah.
lot of people don't think it's possible for people to change as we get older. That's 100% not true.
Right.
And yeah, so your show has so much about all these important things. And as we're coming to an end, Silke, I'll ask you what you always ask me, which is there anything else that you'd like to share that I haven't asked you yet?
Well, if you're going to go out there, if you want to find love again, if you're at that point, it's just so important that you have take an accounting of your mindset. What are you bringing to the table? Do you have realistic expectations? It really is all about that. What you put out there, you're going to attract and get back. And I know you hear that, all over the place and whatever. But it's true. If you expect to be rejected, if, oh, this guy's just going to be another dick, that's what you're going to get. But if you just have fun, if hopefully, just expect something good to happen. I have that behind what right there. Always believe something wonderful is about to happen. And it's corny, but it works. It really does. Not all, yes, you're going to have all kinds of disappointments, all kinds of stuff is going to happen, but you're going to get through it faster. I think mindset is just so important.
Oh, amen, sister. I know there was a quote, it's attributed to Einstein, but it's not really an Einstein quote, but it's something about whether the world is a friendly place or a hostile place. It's up to you to decide. Like
Right.
it's all your outlook. The world is out to get you, or the world
Yep.
is there to serve you, and you're there to learn, or you're there to be a victim and terrible things will happen. And once you make that shift, and it's not woo-woo and it's not fake and it's
Right.
not just trying to have this fake positivity, it really is a difference between people who grow and learn and have a life that they love, or the people who feel like they're victims of everything. And
Absolutely.
yeah.
And just realize that, I guess maybe that'll be my final thought, is just there are so many, if you're sitting watching this and you haven't found love, you're discouraged or whatever, just know that there are so many people just like you out there that won't admit it. It's just, we're not alone in this. You're absolutely not alone in this. And again, if the mindset is there, you will likely attract what you finally actually want.
I love it. That's a great way to close. And you can find Silke on YouTube at Second Act TV. Go check out all the episodes. There are a lot of them there, but they're episodes on sex and episodes on relationships with amazing experts. And go and feast your eyes and your ears on these amazing episodes and segments. And yeah, follow the channel, subscribe. Yeah, you're also on
Please
Instagram a little bit.
Sandy's son's trying to teach me how to do Instagram. He's a great teacher. I'm not a good student.
Well, follow her on Instagram too, and then maybe that'll encourage you to post more. But there's full videos, there's shorts, there's everything, and it's everything you need to know to find love after 50, to have great relationships if you already have love, and just improve your life. I mean, really, relationships are not just romantic, they are everything. And that's the only way, the only path to success is not romantic love. It's loving yourself first and really getting your mindset in order, like you said. And yeah, it's after 50, it's a great time. So thank you so much, Silke. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you. I love being with you, and I can't wait till you're back on Second Act TV.
Thanks everybody for listening. If you love our show, please give us a great rating and review on Apple Podcasts and share this show. We're on every podcast platform. And as always, here's to your last first date. If you are ready to get unstuck, gain new tools, become more empowered, and finally find your last first date, I'd love to talk to you. Fill out an application to be considered for a complimentary half-hour love breakthrough session at lastfirstdate.com/application.